into, gee, what is this, lecture number 8 already? Wow. In our 3rd year of lectures put on by the Hempology 101 Club at the University of Victoria, student club, non-credit course, I should say, and the International Hempology 101 Society. So today's lecture is on cannabis and the media, and in fact, the schedule, I should just say, is completely out of whack in some sense, but I do it every semester, so you should be used to it. Next week's class is marked as a break in the lecture series. Of course, the spring break isn't, or I should say the reading break isn't until the week after, so we're going to be here on campus. I'm going to do another session on cannabis in the media. Hopefully I'll be playing a couple of videos, one from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and stuff that you may or may not have seen before, but that will sort of fill in next week's class on cannabis in the media. And then the following week we will proceed with the lecture series as scheduled, even though there isn't classes at the university. So that's what's going on in the future.
And I'll never trust a computer again.
And I think next semester we have the same sort of issue. And we do move from this class, just to note for everybody here, we move to the clearing building. Anyway, cannabis and the media. In some ways, well, it's hard to say one topic is more critical than another, but it's, I think, easy to say that no other industry, no other kind of commercial industry has had more effect on the cannabis laws, both their enactment and continued implementation than the media. From the very beginnings of modern day reefer madness, where I got here, I don't be able to see it that great in the dark, but I think I did a whole class on the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, so I'm not going to repeat the early tie-ins with prohibition that the media has extensively, except to note that the newspaper industry in particular had a vested interest in diminishing the perceived value of hemp and the use of hemp, and certainly in creating the Reefer Madness campaign. They've been able to do that. And I started off with a Crime Stoppers piece just to kind of lead in from Reefer Madness to Reefer Madness today, where they have citizens reporting on each other for the activities in the privacy of their homes. There's continued propaganda being put out by the police in all sorts of ways. I do have this old video, Dope Mania, which shows a whole bunch of older videos, but they're still coming out with them. I have this one here, Drug Bust. They're actually selling videos of real stories of the highway patrol busting people for drugs. And so they really hype it up in the media. And because the media is part of this whole kind of corporate empire that we seem to be working against here, they do not do a good job reporting both sides when they're discussing, the drug busts and how many people they've arrested and how many plants they've stopped from being harvested and all these various things. Unfortunately, every time we get in the press, they really like to try to get the police's opinion in there, but it's not always a two-way street for that. And the police and law enforcement and the media have worked, for the most part, hand in hand to enforce this law. And I guess the other sort of extension from the media to Hollywood, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is kind of based on the celebrity nature of today's consumer society. And it goes back, certainly in history. There were a lot of Reefer Madness films, right? Like, we see the odd clip of certainly, the Reefer Madness film itself. It's quite famous, but many of us don't understand how many films were actually produced. Probably about a dozen with this sort of central theme that came out, possibly even more. And that's really why it was so indoctrinated, you could say, amongst many people that are still, alive, 70, 80 years old now. But these sorts of images that young people and girls in particular would be taken advantage of, and their lives would essentially be lost to this drug, was really a big part of what came out of Hollywood. And that extends through to today, right? And in some ways, you can kind of see it here as well, that there's a certain appeal to young people in actually the way that they portray reefer madness. In the old days, it used to be, on one hand, well, you see right there, she traded her body for drugs and kicks. Well, if you're a young man reading this, you're wondering how to get a hold of some of that, because you're going to be able to have a lot of fun. So there's an appeal to that, even though in this case it might not be intended. Those things are what are supposed to be degrading you and bringing you down. So they're trying to make you afraid of that, right? Whereas in today's modern day films, like Homegrown, and I say modern day really, I probably could even suggest into today with the films like Super High Me as well, but certainly Cheech and Chong as well. Well, they don't portray us as sort of villains in a way, like we're demonic. They don't portray us in a way that are intelligent, thoughtful, caring people. They portray us as buffoons, as fools, as comedians, as clowns, as someone not to be taken seriously at all. And so Hollywood has done a really good job continually putting out movies about cannabis and bringing up the issue, but movies like Homegrown, for example, aren't always portraying us in the best light, certainly as the earth-loving people that many of us would like to see or ourselves portrayed as, because that's who we are. And so it's something that, and even through this day, I think it's in my handout a little bit. I honestly haven't read it for a year probably myself, but the United States government has given Hollywood billions of dollars at times, or maybe not billions, but certainly millions of dollars, and have done all sorts of sort of deals with them to incorporate anti-drug messages in their movies, not necessarily slogans, but again, portraying people that use cannabis as being degenerates for the most part. And so the United States government and Hollywood has really been able to stimulate and maintain these ideas in society, so we don't again take marijuana users seriously, even though it is much more accepted. We're again we're more of a joke than a menace. And that's despite at times some real serious attempts from people that are loved for things aside from marijuana. It's funny enough, I had the Willie Nelson copy out, but many celebrities in the United States in particular have come forward claiming to be supporting cannabis use, although some of them at times don't do a very good job of it. Woody Harrelson's another I think obvious example of someone who has really come out. And High Times really should even be given some credit. I think they formed in 1970, and really in the 1970s were influential in trying to or creating a bunch of laws in the U.S. that were decriminalizing cannabis and opening up some opportunities for the medical issues to come out as well.